This is a 7 News Your Voice, Your Vote special. Prince George's County Executive Debate.
Thank you for joining us for this Prince George's County Executive Debate special on WJLA 24/7 News. I'm Brad Bell, your host and moderator this evening. Prince George's County voters will decide who will lead the county for the next year and a half in a special June election. The role was vacated by Angela Alsobrooks when she won a U.S. 8 Democrats will primary on March 4th for a chance to make it to the final ballot. Early voting starts on February 26th. Joining us tonight in studio are 4 of those 8 Democratic candidates from left to right. We have Calvin Jr., an at-large member of the Prince George's County Council, Rashern Baker, former county executive to Prince George's County, Aisha Braveboy, the state's attorney for Prince George's County, and Maryland State Senator Alonzo Washington. Now, these 4 candidates qualified for tonight's debate based on campaign reporting deadlines set by Prince George's County's Board of Elections. They each reported at least $10,000 cash on hand by the January 15th deadline. Now, 7 News' Scott Thuman has a look at the other 4 Democratic candidates in the race.
Thank you, Brad. All of these candidates are familiar faces in the community. Marcellus Cruz is a businessman who runs tech company Cruising. It supplies audio and video services to state agencies, schools, and businesses in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Now, Cruz received the... Also on the ballot is Ron Hunt. He owns the website and mobile app company Vidi. Now, Hunt says he was key in transforming the Arthur Capper Carrollsburg community into one of the top neighborhoods in the district. He also says he helped rewrite the local alcohol beverage control laws in 2001 with former D.C. council member Sharon Ambrose. All right, voters may remember Albert Slocum when he ran for Prince George's County Councilman for District 5 in 2018. Slocum has decades of experience in banking and real estate. And attorney Moisette Tanya Sweat specializes in federal consumer protection and employment law. After serving in the U.S. Air Force, she became the Financial Compliance Director for the Office of Consumer Protection with the National Credit Union Administration. She also runs her local parent, teacher, and student association. Each of these candidates was offered an interview on WJLA 24/7. Only Cruz and Slocum accepted, and you can find their interviews and more information about these candidates and their campaigns on WJLA.com. Brad, back to you.
Well, thank you, Scott. And we should also tell you that today, Jolene Ivey, at-large county council member, dropped out of the race, citing personal, is currently chair of the Prince George's County Council. Now, on to tonight's debate. Here are the rules. There will be no opening statements from the candidates in tonight's debate. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer questions. There will be no rebuttals, and we will rotate who answers each question first. And we would also like to hear from you. There is a live 7 News viewer poll happening right now on our website. Come in, and we'll check in with this poll throughout the night. So, let's get to the questions, and we're going to begin with the budget. Prince George's County is facing a budget crisis. The latest number is a $170 million deficit, and it could get worse as the state and federal government tighten their belts. So we ask you, candidates, how will you fix it during your term? What role would a tax increase play? What role would budget cuts play? And we're going to begin with Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you, Brad, for the opportunity to answer that question. As you may know, and the citizens may not know, we have a legal obligation to balance the budget by the time we pass the budget. As a council member currently serving on the Prince George's County Council, I will have an opportunity to work with my colleagues and deal with that projected deficit, and we will make certain that we not only pass a balanced budget, but we will do what's necessary. I will say to my colleagues, and I will say to those of you who are watching, I'm committed to ensuring that the basic services our government should offer is provided. I'm also committed to the infrastructure that is important to keep our government going. And lastly, I will do what we need to do to ensure that the citizens are not terribly impacted by our decisions as council members in passing the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. We move on now to Senator Washington. Your answer.
Thank you, Brad. My name is Alonzo Washington. I'm a state senator here in Prince George's County, and I'm excited to be here today because what I know is Prince George's County has been moving in the wrong direction, and we've been moving in the wrong direction for such a long time. As the question states, we had a $170 million backlog. If you look at Montgomery County, they don't have that same structural deficit. In Prince George's County, we've overspent too many times, and we need to balance our budget. I've had a history of balancing 13 consecutive budgets here in the state of Maryland as a state senator. As your next county executive, I will ensure that where we prioritize our values, education will not be cut at all, our senior services will not be cut, but I will balance our budget to make sure that the services that you need are what are going to be funded fully.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Ms. Braveboy, how will you fix the budget?
Thank you very much. You know, the budget is about the priorities of our county. And I will absolutely focus on ensuring that we hold the line on taxes. We cannot raise property taxes here in Prince George's County. But what we can do is do a full audit of our spending to ensure that we are spending appropriately and wisely. We must invest in business growth and development. That is the key, because we have to increase our commercial tax base. Now, I have both public sector experience working on major projects like National Harbor as well as the Woodmore Town Center. And in the private sector, I actually worked to bring a children's outpatient center to Woodmore Town Center. I have both public and private sector experience. I also worked on the Southwest Waterfront Development Project as an attorney. I know what it takes to grow our economy.
Thank you. Mr. Baker, your turn.
Good evening. I have experience as the county executive dealing with this problem. We had a $150 million budget deficit when I took over in 2010. The way we did it, we funded our priorities. Our priorities are our public safety, because if people don't feel safe, they won't come into the county. So that's funding all of our public safety and our education system. By creating the $50 million Economic Development Incentive Fund, which allowed us to actually bring in businesses like MGM, like Whole Foods, like Tanger, all of those things into our economy in the county. You have to have the experience to know how to deal with this on March 4th, because that's really when you're going to take over. And so my experience dealing with the budget, dealing with Wall Street, will help us solve that problem immediately. No learning curve, being able to do it right away. And I've done it in the past. That's something no one on this stage can say, that they've actually served as county executive and dealt with a budget deficit.
Thank you all very much. Right on the 1-minute timer for each of you. Look, over the last few weeks, I've spoken to people in the county. I've asked what questions they would ask in this forum, and almost everybody was concerned about taxes, the things we just talked about. But many also brought up something else. Each of you currently holds another elective office, or in your case, Mr. Baker, you already had 8 years in this job. Several people told me pointedly to ask you why you want this job, and they used this phrase: is it power, prestige, and position, or something else? Mr. Washington, begin with you.
Thank you. You know, this is a really great question, because right now our county, again, is headed in the wrong direction. We keep electing the same people over and over again and expecting a different result. Now it's a time for change. It's time for a new voice, a new perspective, new leadership for a new direction. Our crime is high. Affordable housing is non-existent almost in this county. Ensuring that our students have access to high quality care, pre-K, child care, those are things that our families care about. I know that firsthand as a brand new parent, that our kids deserve high quality child care. You can't find it in this county. We deserve high paying jobs in this county as well. This isn't about a position for me. This is about a place that I grew up. I grew up in homeless shelters. I lived in poverty. I live in the most worst circumstances you can imagine. And I became now a state senator and now running for the highest office in Prince George's County, county executive. We need someone with real change, with a real perspective, and I have just that for Prince George's County.
Thank you. Ms. Braveboy?
Yes, you know, as state's attorney, I see a lot. But what's most important to me is I see where county government services have not met the needs of our people, whether it's our children in schools, whether it's our healthcare system, where we don't serve especially those who have mental illness very well in our county, where social services is not meeting the needs of those who have real needs in our county for, things like housing, as well as some cash assistance when they're going through tough times. So I understand that a lot of those factors lead people into the criminal justice system. What I want to do is be on the front end to prevent crimes from happening, to allow people to make better choices by giving them the services that they need when they need them.
Thank you. Mr. Baker, why do you want this job again?
That's a very good question. I spent the last 5 years actually going around training county executives and mayors on how to be executives. But I looked at what was going on in my home county. When I left the county, we were leading the state in job creation. We had seen crime at its lowest level in almost 50 years, and we expanded health care throughout the entire county. But now our economy is stagnant, crime is rising, and we don't know what we're doing in terms of cleaning up trash and waste around our county. And so for me, it's about not the title, because they still call me county executive. It's about getting the job done. And the fact that I see what we're facing at the federal level with a government that's hostile to Prince George's County, putting a lot of our workers out of jobs, taking a lot of businesses away at the federal level, but also at the state level where they have a $3 billion budget deficit. In these times, you need somebody that actually knows what they're doing on day one. That's why I decided to get in this race. That's why I'm the best candidate.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hawkins, your answer, sir.
Thank you, Brad. I have 30 years of experience working in Prince George's County. I've been there during the hard times, the challenging times, the ups and downs, through recessions, through inflation, through H1N1 virus, even through COVID-19. I've been there. Some say we're dealing with a deficit. Certainly we are. But we have led the country, we have led the state the last 5 years in job growth. We have created opportunities in our county under the former county exec. We have done things that are unimaginable, from setting up the first cancer center in our county to deal with the number of citizens who have these cancer issues in our county. We talk about we're going in the wrong direction. My friends, we're going in the right direction. We're going in the right directions because we're making a difference when a senator talks about our local deficit, and there's some responsibility there. Let's keep moving forward, my friends.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Now, let's turn to crime. You know, as most crime statistics are falling, one thing is standing out, and that is that the percentage of crimes committed by juveniles has actually increased. Prince Georgians have suffered through an unprecedented period of carjackings and auto thefts, with juveniles making up the majority of the arrests. Some say spend more money on community programs. Others say get tougher on crime. What is your solution? And we begin now with you, State's Attorney Braveboy.
Thank you very much, and I'm so grateful to be able to answer this question. You know, I have absolutely been focused on bringing down crime. Overall crime is down in our county right now 30%. That is significant. We have a 40% drop in carjackings just last year. And so we are absolutely focused on keeping our community safe. Our police chief, Malik Aziz, has emphatically said that crime is down. But the reality is, if people don't feel safe, then there's a lot more for us to do. And I'm willing to do it, and I have been doing it for the past several years. We went through the pandemic, a pandemic that was unprecedented. No one else on this stage has had to manage an agency through a pandemic, and it was tough. But now we're seeing the fruits of our labor. We're seeing every major category of crime is down right now in Prince George's County, and we are very proud of that. And I went last year to the General Assembly to get tougher juvenile laws, and those passed, and I worked with Governor Moore to do it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Baker, crime.
Yeah, unfortunately, crime isn't down. If you look at crime over the last 6 years, it has gone up. It may be down from last year. Homicides way up in our carjackings, way up in robberies. That means we're doing something wrong. And we're seeing too many juveniles who are committing these crimes. How did we reduce it? When I was county executive, we had a program called Transforming Neighbors Initiative that we actually brought the resources to the community level. We also had 100 officers down in our fire department and EMS. Without the necessary personnel and resources to deal with these issues, it will keep spiking. It doesn't matter what we say. If people don't feel safe, they're not safe. And businesses won't invest in here. When I'm county executive again, we will deal with this issue. We'll make sure we get our hands around it. That's how we deal with it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Mr. Hawkins, your response.
Mr. Baker, as I shared with him before, he had a very effective state's attorney in Angela also Brooks working with him. We have a arrest and release program going on in Prince George's County when it comes to our juveniles, and we have to continue to work to get them the programs they need, but at the same time, we can't keep releasing them and not giving them the services they need, because when we let them continue to roam our streets without the services they require, they will continue to be predators, whether it's predators against our seniors or other young people. We have to make that commitment that we will not continue to be lenient, but give them the programs they need. We have the funding to invest in the programs to help our young people, but we can't keep allowing them to return to our streets without any supervision and any support for the issues that are causing them to be the violent criminals they have become.
Thank you very much. Mr. Washington, crime, specifically juvenile crime.
Thank you. You know, I've had the unfortunate opportunity to visit two candlelight vigils where two teens were shot and killed recently in January. Those are two mothers that came to me and told me about their stories of how they worked, how they just recently just talked to their young person, and then they went outside and then was shot and killed 15 minutes later. That shouldn't happen here in Prince George's County. One murder is way too high. For me, my plan to reduce crime here in Prince George's County is twofold. One, to ensure the 150 sworn police officers that are in civilian roles to be transferred into community policing. Right now, we only have 50 community policing officers for 1 million people here in Prince George's County. Two, I'm going to ensure that Park and Planning offers activities for students in the late nights, and some of them will be open 24 hours so that our students and our families have opportunities for growth. We need to do this by two parts. We just can't do it by saying we're going to increase funding for public safety. We have to make sure that the activities are available for families too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, let's move on to the topic of immigration. Immigration is a hot topic right now in the country and in Prince George's County, where there has been a massive increase in the Spanish-speaking population. 25% of the students in the public school system are listed as English language learners, PGCPS. Now, will those members of the community have a seat at the table in your administration, and will you take action to protect that part of community in light of White House executive orders that we've been hearing? Two-part question. We're going to start with Mr. Baker.
Yes, they definitely will have a seat at the table. One of the things that I did as county executive was to expand the role of our Latino liaison, and we'll continue to do that. But the other thing, and I'm so glad that I got the endorsement of our public safety unions in Prince George's County, because it's not only dealing with crime, it's also dealing with people who are afraid to turn in things that are happening in their neighborhoods. So those of us in our immigrant community who may be unsure of their immigration status, it has a chilling effect. I went through this during the Trump administration during my last 2 years as county executive. We saw what the chilling effect would have by Trump saying he's going to have ICE agents at our schools, at our hospitals, in our homes. We took a bold stand and said no, that we are not going to have these detainers in our neighborhoods in Prince George's County, that we want our citizens and our residents to know that they're safe here and they can come forward and send their kids to our schools. And as county executive, I'll make sure that happens.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hawkins?
I'm proud to say that I'm not going to speak about what I plan to do. I can say what we are doing. Superintendent House and his team already have in place a mechanism to deal with ICE and the challenges immigrant students may face in their schools. ICE members cannot come into schools without authority, without prior notification. And it's these kind of proactive things we're doing right now to ensure that we address the concerns that immigrants are going through, especially the students. We want them to know that our schools remain a safe haven for them and that they don't have to worry about sitting in class and some ICE officials come in and take them out of the class. This is the kind of proactive work with our school system to ensure that those individuals are not removed from schools.
Thank you very much. Senator Washington.
Yes, I think the question was about someone having these folks on a table right next to us. For me, my beautiful wife at home is an immigrant. She's going to be right next to me as I'm being that next county executive, right there helping me make decisions on behalf of immigrants here in Prince George's County. In addition, I worked for CASA for over 8 years. I worked to fight the Trump administration to ensure that they don't deport nonviolent undocumented immigrants here. We expanded access to driver's licenses here in the state for undocumented immigrants. In my cabinet, I'm gonna make sure I have the most diverse cabinet we have seen to make sure it reflects the diversity of Prince George's County. Not only am I gonna make sure that there's a Latino in my cabinet, I'll make sure people with disabilities are in my cabinet, ensure that African immigrants are in my cabinet, and ensure that we have them at the forefront of our leadership here in Prince George's County as your next county executive.
Thank you. Ms. Braveboy.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to just educate the panel on one specific thing. It is the Department of Juvenile Services and the courts that make the decision on whether or not a child will be released or detained. So I just wanted to make sure, because it seems that people don't quite understand the system. With respect to immigrants, I'm the daughter of an immigrant, and when I became state's attorney, I created a multicultural commission so that I can communicate the role and the responsibilities of the justice system to those who come from diverse places to our great county, Prince George's. Everyone has the right to achieve the American dream, whether they're undocumented or documented. And that's why folks like Jocelyn Pena-Melnick, the leading voice for our Hispanic community, is endorsing and supporting me. That is why I have a large group of multinational individuals who have come together.
So sorry to interrupt. Look, continuing on the same subject, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Field Office in Baltimore continues to complain. They put out press releases saying that the Department of Corrections in the county doesn't honor their detainers and releases people charged with serious crimes who are here illegally. What would your policy be concerning local law enforcement cooperation with federal immigration agents? And we know that a lot about from the White House. Mr. Hawkins.
I want to say, Brad, I was a part of the legislation that created the challenges they are speaking about, because what was occurring is a young person or an individual who was incarcerated or detained at our Department of Corrections the courts may say, hey, you can release this individual, but our correctional officials were holding these individuals until ICE would come and pick them up. They will release them and ICE will be standing or outside waiting to arrest them. And we said that was policies that are fair for our immigrants, at least give them a chance. If you are stopped for a traffic violation and they take you to Department of Correction and a commissioner realized that there's no need to detain you, you should not be held until ICE has come to pick you up. That's just unfair. And again, I will continue to support that policy.
All right, thank you. Senator Washington?
Yes, thank you. You know, I've been a strong supporter of our immigrant communities, and I'm going to ensure that we uphold the current law, that our law enforcement officers don't enforce our immigration laws here in the state here in Prince George's County. We have a high crime here in the county. No matter what folks are saying here, the crime is rising, whether it's rape, whether it's burglaries, assaults, domestic violence. Our police officers deserve to be on the street enforcing those laws, not immigration laws. We have so much work to do in the county where we need a new perspective to ensure, like I said earlier, we're removing our police officers, that are 150 of them, that are sworn officers, that are in civilian positions. We move those into community policing officers. We're going to build a better relationship with our immigrant community so we know exactly who they are and we can protect them and not be deported by ICE. We have a lot of work to do.
Ms. Braveboy, the issue of cooperation with ICE.
Violent criminals have lost their right to remain in this country. However, my office has a right to hold them accountable. And so we have individuals who may have ICE detainers, but have also committed crimes here in Prince George's County. And so I'm committed to prosecuting them and holding them accountable for the crimes they have committed here. And once they have served their time, they should be deported and leave and go back to their home country. But the reality is most of our immigrants here, they're law-abiding citizens and residents. They care about the community. They're a part of our community. So we don't want to set up a scenario where they're scared to send their children to school, where they're scared to go to work. And so while we will support removing those who are causing us the most problems in our community, certainly, but for those everyday average law-abiding citizens, no.
Thank you very much. Mr. Baker.
Yeah, on this question, I actually agree with Senator Washington, and I did this during my administration. If it's a nonviolent act, we don't want to hold them in our police department or in our jails. So if you had a car accident, we don't want people running away from the accident simply because they don't want to be detained by ICE. If they're violent offenders, we hold them anyway. If they've committed a violent crime, they will be in the jail, and then we can cooperate with ICE. But otherwise, we're not the immigration. That's the federal law. We don't want to scare our citizens who report things, and he is absolutely right, that crime is up. So we don't want to have citizens not reporting what goes on in their neighborhoods. So under my administration, just like it was when I was county executive, we are going to make sure that they strongly, from the county executive seat, that people know that you have nothing to fear if you report a crime, if you have a car accident, if you're late bringing your child to school. We're not going to call ICE in and have you deported. So that's would be the policy of the Baker administration.
Thank you very much. Now let's turn to diversity, equity, and inclusion, another issue that's under attack from the White House. Certainly, President Donald Trump has threatened to withhold federal funds from local governments that espouse DEI principles. What is your view of DEI efforts within Prince George's County government, and do you plan to maintain that view with funds for local services or organizations potentially at risk, with some punishment potentially from the White House, we should say? We'll begin with Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, what we plan to do to ensure that the DEI policies that we now have in Prince George's County, fortunately our acting county executive, Tara Jackson, and her team are looking at all those policies, and we're looking at what the law says based on the executive order that our president issued to ensure that we follow the guidelines at the local level. But we're going to continue to do those programs that we have found effective, those programs that have worked, but we are going to do it in a way that we are not in violation of that executive order. And I believe there's a way to do it, and there's a way to be creative to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our citizens while not violating what the president has issued regarding the DEI initiative that he put forward. I'm excited about the chance to that issue in a different light.
Thank you very much. Mr. Washington, your response, sir?
Thank you. Isn't it sad that this powerful man is afraid of three words: diversity, equity, and inclusion? Words that we should live by as a society here, of a country that was built on the backs of black people and slaves here in this country. We deserve better in this country. We deserve a leader that's going to stand up and fight against the Trump administration. We're going to double down under my leadership for DEI principles, ensuring that black women, black men, African American DEI is about. That's what diversity, equity, and inclusion, those words that this man is afraid of, that he blamed a helicopter crash on. We got bigger things to worry about in this country. We're going to make sure that I highlight diversity, equity, and inclusion in my administration. That's why we're going to have an awesome, culturally diverse cabinet here in Prince George's County.
Thank you very much. Ms. Braveboy.
Thank you very much. You know, diversity really is our superpower. You know, in the state's attorney's office, I have a diverse staff. In fact, I hired the very first blind assistant state's attorney. And what that does is it allows us as an office to see people differently and understand their true abilities differently. We have Spanish speakers, we have people who are from West Africa, we have individuals from our Asian community, we have Caucasian people in our office too, we have everyone. And it's because of that diversity that we are able to serve a diverse population so much better. We're able to culturally connect with people, to provide services in the languages that they need, and also have a sense of empathy for people who may be coming here from different places and really don't understand our system of justice. So I'll apply those same principles to our county government.
Thank you very much. Mr. Baker, DEI.
Yeah, I'll paraphrase a quote that John F. Kennedy said that he wanted his administration to look at. He said, at the end of my time, I want to have the government more inclusive. That's diversity inclusion. And my administration, the first thing we did is we looked at the county government across the board and to see where we had gaps in not including those people that we talk about in this great county. And the state's attorney's right. Our superpower is our diversity, and we have to make sure our government looks like that. So I also will double down on the things that I did as county executive to make sure we're more inclusive, and we'll be bold about it. We'll hold statements, we'll hold rallies how we grow in this county, that we want everyone to know that if you're a resident of Prince George's County, you have an opportunity here. And if you're getting feedback, pushback elsewhere, we want you to come to Prince George's County because we need you and we need that diversity. And that's the kind of administration I'll lead.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to education. The blueprint for Maryland's future, as you all know, is the public education spending formula passed by the state legislature. It dramatically boosts spending on public education, but it was passed without a designated funding source. And now it is one of the things contributing to a financial crisis for the state and has also forced tough decisions at the county level. Governor Wes Moore is suggesting pausing some elements of the program to save some money. So I ask all of you to be afforded. We're going to start with Mr. Washington.
I had the unique opportunity to actually be the architect and the lead sponsor on the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. That bill ensured that we have teacher pay increases, had more community schools for wraparound resources for our families, ensured that special education students, as well as students in poverty, had the access to services that they need, as well as expand pre-K and early childhood education. Those things we cannot put on hold at all. Leading cause for this structural deficit of $3 billion. It is not. It is not at all. What the problem is that we have other places in our budget that we need to fill, and we'll do that. But we won't cut Blueprint for Maryland's Future because we're not cutting education for our students. The governor wants to cut about $160 million for a high concentration of poverty areas in Prince George's County. That's 200 schools that will be impacted by his budget cuts. As county executive, that won't happen under my leadership.
All right, thank you. Ms. Braveboy, the blueprint, and can the county afford it?
You know, I support the goals of the blueprint, but what I would urge our legislature to do is before passing massive increases on local spending, is that we find revenue sources to actually pay for it. And so the reality is government has to pay for a lot of things. We already give 62% of our budget to our public educational system, which is smart because we have to grow our workforce of the future. However, we also have other needs. Our seniors have needs. You know, those who are developmentally disabled have needs. We have other issues like trash pickup, like litter removal, like snow removal. You know, so the county government has a large obligation to its residents. And before we pass massive spending bills, we have to be able to recognize how we can pay for it. So I'm going to work with this governor to figure out the right revenue package.
Thank you very much. Mr. Baker, your view.
No, I don't agree with the governor. The two most important issues that people won't move into the county or come to the state if they don't feel safe. And the other is our education system. You know, I was in the legislature when we passed the Thornton Commission, which saw this coming down the pipe 20 years ago. And we did the same thing. We passed the bill without the funding. The funding, everyone committed to it. Everyone running for governor, everyone in the legislature, we have to do that. Because if we don't have to worry about those other things. Seniors won't move here. People won't move here. Businesses won't move here. Why? Because the reputation of your state and your economy is based on your public education system. So what people will do is move from Prince George's County and move to places, whether it's Fairfax County or whether it's Howard County or other places. We have to invest in our education system, and we have to invest strongly. So I support state level and the local level to fund the blueprint.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hawkins.
62% of our budget goes to public education. The idea about the blueprint for education is a great one, but when you have the responsibility of finding the funds for it, turn to the local government like Baltimore City and Prince George's County. Again, we give 62% of our budget to the public school system. We are already funding at a level our public school system. Yes, this is a great idea, but without the revenue source, it handcuffs what Prince George's County can do. And yes, the facts show that that's one of the major issues with the structural deficit we are now dealing with. If we did not have the blueprint for education as a part of something we have to pay for, we could do a better job addressing the budget issue.
Thank you very much. Now, let's turn now to the local economy, and this is something we've heard about for years. Prince George's County residents say they suffer from a lack of services. People often talk about the lack of high-end retail and restaurants. Aside from National Harbor, do you have any plans or projects that you would implement to encourage businesses to relocate within Prince George's County? Ms. Braveboy.
Thank you so much for that question. I'll continue the work of our prior County Executive, Angela Also-Brooks, in focusing on the Blue Line corridor. However, we need to start right on the district line so that we can build quality housing as well as retail and commercial and business development there. You know, I have the experience. I have worked on projects here in the county where we used tax incentives in order to spur development, like we did at Woodmore, like we did at National Harbor. I will also take the know-how that I have in working on projects like the Southwest Waterfront Redevelopment Project to encourage smart growth, smart development around our metro stations. We have the most undeveloped metro stations in this region. It's an area where we can invest in without burdening our roadways.
Thank you. Mr. Baker.
Yes, that tax incentive that the state's attorney is talking about is our $50 million economic development tax incentive that we use to expand what's going on at the Woodmore Town Center. We also brought the county administration building down to Largo. We brought the new hospital to Largo. So we're developing around those metro systems. If you look at New Carrollton now, it didn't look that way in 2010 before I came in. We develop around that area. We're building a Purple Line. We develop around Suitland. But all of these things go into the last question we had about education. How do we fund education without going into property taxes? You do things like MGM. You bring in Whole Foods. You bring in the business community, which is why, as county executive, what I did was go to the business community and say, why aren't you investing in Prince George's County? And we talked them into coming here. I'll do the same thing, but you have to be the cheerleader for the county. You have to know what you're doing. I will do that and have our economy rolling again.
Thank you. Mr. Hawkins, bringing those amenities to the county. How are you going to do it?
When you look at the District of Columbia, how it looked 20 years ago and how it looks now, we have the blueprint right there in the District of Columbia, what we need to do in Prince George's County. We talked about the Blue Line corridor. Before our county executive became our U.S. Senator, she was talking about what we could do along Marlboro Pike, what we can do in supporting what's happening over in older communities like Oxon Hill, the Eastover area, Forest Heights, with the big Riverview development project that's going to be right adjacent to National Harbor. Taking economic incentives and taking them to these communities, our older communities, and ensuring we have the development we need. Yes, we keep building at New Carrollton, but we make the old Cheverly Hospital work when it comes to economic development. In my administration, you will see that kind of economic development.
No, as when I was a delegate, I also worked for the Redevelopment Authority here in Prince George's County. And during my time there in economic development projects, I worked on the Suitland Development Project where, under my leadership, we'll make sure we put a performing arts center right next to the Census Bureau. In addition to that, I worked on the redevelopment project that's there in Glenarden. We need more economic development. So right now, it's about looking at the next frontier of our economy, and that's technology. Right now here in Prince George's County, we have NASA, we also have the University of Maryland, and we have NOAA. And soon, we're going to have the FBI headquarters here in Prince George's County. In that sector, what I did as a state senator is create the Maryland Aerospace and Technology Commission. We're going to create that zone there so we can incentivize new contractors, new development in that zone and in that area, while still doing the same things around the county to attract businesses throughout the county. We have 6,600 jobs available in technology jobs, and we need our people ready for those jobs.
Thank you very much. Now, you mentioned the FBI headquarters. A lot of people think the FBI headquarters move to Prince George's County is in jeopardy, and the commanders also seem very likely headed back to D.C. A deal was made that obliges the team's ownership to tear down the stadium and Landover and jumpstart the development of that property if they do leave. And there has been talk of the Blue Line. You all just mentioned it, the Blue Line corridor revitalization. It's been talked about for years now. But so far, there's been very little progress, and some are telling me that there is a reluctance to invest in Prince George's County. What is your vision to investment in the Blue Line corridor and to get some other developments here? Bring it all to fruition. Mr. Baker, we'll begin with you.
We actually started the investment in Blue Line corridor. One of the reasons that we moved the county administration building to downtown Largo, which I want to rename downtown Prince George's, was to get the foot traffic during the day in that area so that we could expand what was going on the boulevard. And we also anchored it with our new hospital, which means that when the original Commander Stadium was built, there was nothing around it. But now that's not the case. You see more hotels that are around that area. You see development happening. It's all in the complex. If you look at the Woodmore Town Center, the Glen Arden project that we did during my administration, all of that is making it an area where you can see the robust. Has it happened fast enough? No. Should we actually be pressing forward and talking to businesses about investing in what we used to be called? We should. And under my administration, we'll continue that the way that I did when I was county executive.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hawkins.
What we have been dealing with, Brad, when it comes to the Blue Line corridor and everything, I'm the only one standing up here that has been in constant conversations, not just with the commanders. I've worked with the governor's office on how we compete to keep the commanders in Landover, but not just keeping the commanders in Landover, but how do we create economic development around there, and how do we get the commanders' ownership committed to that, because the individuals that live in that community deserves the kind of economic development that we have been promising them. And lastly, I've been involved with the FBI coming there. This is not something I'm going to do. I've been engaged as a council member, as a leader of the council, ensuring we are moving in the right direction with regard to your question.
Thank you very much. Mr. Washington, your response to that question.
Thank you. Let's make this clear. Unfortunately, our county and our state has let us down when it comes to keeping the commanders here in Prince George's County. When they went to Congress and said it's okay for them to pass this bill to authorize them to go to the stadium in D.C., that's when they laid it down. That's what Mr. Calvin is talking about, when they laid down that sword so they won't stay here. Unfortunately, we're going to have a hole just like we have in Landover Mall and just like we're soon about to have at the Prince George's County Hospital site, because we're not planning for the future. Under my leadership as county executive, we will plan for the future. There's no way that we need that the commander site is going to leave Prince George's County without having a redevelopment project ready to go when they do leave, because it's true, they will be leaving. But the Blue Line Corridor project, that $400 million that's been talked about on the stage, it was approved by me. I voted for that to make sure that we got the stadium authority here in the state of Maryland to actually invest around our stations. But we need to change the projects and make sure they're next to the metro station and not at Peppercorn. Thank you.
Ms. Braveboy.
Well, let me first say that I know that the commanders is not a done deal. They are not definitely leaving Prince George's County, and we all up here have to fight to keep them here. There was an investment made when the stadium was built in Prince George's County, and that commitment must continue to be met. But in addition to that, look, there's an open secret in Prince George's County that we have hundreds, if not thousands, of small businesses and mid-sized businesses that are doing incredible things. What they have not had is a county executive and a government that will invest in them. We grow from within. Our small business community can thrive. They can be the economic engine if we believe in them. You know, our governor is investing in IonQ, which is located in College Park. I like to work with him to invest in other businesses here in our great county.
All right, thank you very much. Now, a shorter question, but a big sub. Funding and jobs are significantly cut. Mr. Hawkins, excuse me, you go first this time.
Brad, we are already working as a council with our county executive and her team to not only discuss what that potential is, but how do we work with federal workers who live in Prince George's County? As you all well know, we have one of the highest number of federal residency of individuals who work for the federal government here. We're not just talking about the federal employees, we're also talking about our federal contractors. I have legislation at this time going through the council to set up a moratorium on foreclosures, because we're setting in legislative policies that will help our federal employees and federal contractors address the concerns. We're being proactive, and that's the county executive, the kind of county executive I will continue to be, someone that's very proactive.
Thank you very much. Mr. Washington.
Thank you for the question. You know, right before we came here, it was announced that the Trump administration just won a case where the buyouts for federal workers are going to move forward. Unfortunately, we need a plan, and someone who has a plan here as your next county executive to protect federal workers. Under my administration, I'm going to create a federal worker taxers that are here in Prince George's County. In our county, we have the highest concentration of black federal workers in the state of Maryland, in this region. We have to protect them, and I have a plan just for that. If they pull back on the FBI, if they pull back on any other projects that are moving forward in Prince George's County, I'm gonna ask my office, my county attorney's office, as well as the attorney general, to sue the federal government to keep the assets here in Prince George's County. We deserve a fighter, and only Trump answers to people who are willing to fight against him. And I plan to be that county executive to fight for you and our federal workers here in Prince George's County.
And Ms. Brayboy, how will you respond if federal workers lose their jobs and their county residents?
Well, I'll respond, number one, with compassion and understanding that the government must intervene. Currently, the state legislature is considering legislation that will provide an emergency fund for our federal workers. I will absolutely work for and work with our governor and our legislature to make sure that a bill is put in place and funded this year to protect our federal workers. You know, they cannot fail. We cannot allow our federal workers to fail. They are not only residents. Many of them are property owners in our county. These are the individuals that make our county work. So we have to ensure that they also have opportunities in county government and in state government, so we can help by repositioning those individuals in local and state jobs, as well as our universities. And then we can also work with Employ Prince George's to retrain a lot of these individuals who may be able to re-enter the job market, but on the private sector side.
Thank you very much. Mr. Baker.
For those affected by what is happening at the federal level, it's personal. I was door knocking the other day and I ran into a teacher who is afraid that she's going to lose her job because she's funded by the Department of Education. And what I told her and what I tell people is we have to do what we did in administration. It's not just enough for us in Prince George's County to fight. We have to actually team up with our regional partners, the District of Columbia, Fairfax County, Montgomery County, all of us, and also using a tool that I use, which is the County Executives of America. There are county executives who are going to be faced with these same issues in red states. So we have to come together and push back hard against the Trump administration. I will do that, but we also have a tool that we can use for those who can fund those small businesses to create jobs right here in Prince George's County and keep them working and hire maybe some of those folks who are going to be let go by the federal government.
Thank you very much. Now, look, before we get to closing statements, 7 News wants to hear from you. Which candidate in the Prince George's County Executive primary has your vote? And let us know who you're going to vote for. And you'll see the results update as more votes come in. Now, each candidate will take 60 seconds to deliver their closing statements, and I'll stop each of you once your time is up. 7 News drew names to determine the order.
This was a wonderful debate. I'm happy to be on the stage with people who I have served with. And as your next county executive, I will unite Prince George's County. Right now, we need leadership that is not divisive. We need leadership that will unite us so that we can confront some of the very real issues that we're dealing with right now, like the potential loss of federal government jobs, obviously our budget deficit, but more importantly for so many people, a loss of hope and a loss of opportunity. So we need to build that. I have the experience. I've worked in all three branches of government. I've also worked in the private sector as a small business owner, as well as a member of a major corporation that serves Prince George's County. So I know what it takes to bring government and business together. That's why I'm endorsed by the Metropolitan Washington AFL-CIO. And just today, the Prince George's County Association of Realtors endorsed me because they know that I'm effective.
Thank you very much. Mr. Washington, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here today. You know, as a young person here who has grown up here in the county, went to elementary school here, middle school, high school, even went to the University of Maryland where I played football and joined a fraternity. I know firsthand the struggles that our families go through every day here in Prince George's County. Whether you grew up in poverty like me, lived in homeless shelters like me, or even was raised by a single mother and experienced evictions. I'm here to fight for you because your voice isn't heard too many times here in Prince George's County. I want to make sure your families have the services that you need and that you provide. I'm going to ensure as your next county executive that we have more access to expanded pre-K as well as early childhood education. I'm going to make sure that we have a school system that will work for you, where the superintendent works for you and not the other way around. We'll make sure that we have more community policing officers on our street to drive down crime, and affordable housing is available to our seniors and those alike. I want to thank you for having me, and I look forward to having your vote as your next county executive.
Mr. Baker, your closing statement, sir.
If you were rushed to the hospital tonight for heart surgery, there are two questions you would ask the surgeon. How many times have you done this, and what's your success rate? If we ask my opponents about that, their answer would be never and no. We saw a record number of police officers and firefighters. We saw economic development happening. Right now, Prince George's County is going backwards. We're no longer the county that leads the nation of affluence and African Americans. This is an important job. We need to make sure that we have somebody that's run a $4 billion around the county. We only have 17 months in this term. You need somebody that can hit the ground running, no learning curve, that can push back against what's happening there. This is our time to make Prince George's County great again.
Thank you very much. And a final word from you, sir. Mr. Hawkins.
Brad, and to the News Channel 7, thank you all for this very important opportunity to give our citizens to hear our views. My friends, for the last 30 years, I've been involved with Prince George's County, whether it's at your front doorstep or in your living room, seeing you in a grocery store or at a community meeting. We've been fighting hard. 23 agency, a $5 billion budget. I will be ready day one, March the 4th, to lead. I'm the only one up here after careful consideration that our county exec, our beloved former county exec, said Calvin Hawkins is the person that could lead our county forward. And she endorsed my candidacy. I'm asking you, whether you seniors, whether you veterans, vote for someone like me. Coming from Glass Manor, I can make the difference, and I will continue to make the difference. Thank you again for this opportunity. I'm Calvin Hawkins, running for Prince George's County Executive.
Well, thank you all very much. Now, we wish all the candidates in the race to become Prince George's County's next executive, as I always say, a very neutral best of luck. There are also 3 Republican candidates on the ballot for this seat. We offered them airtime as well. You can find more information about those candidates on our website, WJLA.com. That includes Cheverly, Fairmont Heights, Glen Arden, and other areas in the county. There are 6 candidates on the ballot for that race. Now, early voting is just 2 weeks away. Polls open February 26th, and the early voting runs through March 3rd. March 4th is the final day to cast your vote in the primary or get that ballot in the mail. Now, thank you all for watching this Prince George's County Executive Debate Special. We will see you back here for the news at 10, right here on WJLA 24/7 News. I'm Brad Bell. Good night, and make sure you vote.